Welcome back to the Empower Her podcast. You are holding yourself back. Sorry for the jump scare, but please hear me out, okay? You are holding yourself back from succeeding and you need to stop, okay? I see this time and time again with my clients, even with myself. We are our own worst enemy. We reject ourselves before someone else can reject us. We tell ourselves we aren't good enough before someone else can tell us that we're not good enough. We don't apply to the job. We don't take the next step. We don't make a move because we fear the rejection, okay? We are our own worst enemies. And listen, I used to do this to myself all the time. I still catch myself doing this, right? Like, it's a normal part of human behavior, unfortunately, but we're trying to reprogram it, right? But, specifically in my career since becoming a coach, when I did become a coach at first, I really sabotaged myself. Like, I didn't want to network and reach out to people. I didn't want to promote myself. I remember I was terrified posting on TikTok, like absolutely mortified, terrified, literally all the negative feelings you could feel. I felt them. It was awful. I feared rejection so deeply that I halted myself from getting new clients, from proceeding in my business, from making more money, because I was literally so scared about the outcome and being rejection, right? And like at the end of the day, how did I know that people didn't want to talk to me? Am I a mind reader? I mean, yes, I consider myself to be, intuitive, but I'm not a mind reader yet, okay? So when I finally got out of my own way, guess what happened? I started to reach out to people and network with them, and the majority of them were happy to also chat with me. I started getting more clients, started getting, making more money. I started getting a lot of really great messages from people saying the nicest things about what I was posting, which is like so beautiful and so nice. And I really had to learn that it's not that serious and I need to get out of my own way. And rejection, someone saying no to me, a client not wanting to work with me, it literally doesn't matter, because as long as I understand what I'm doing is for the greater good, it's something that makes me happy, it's something that brings me joy, then that is literally all that matters, right? So let's talk about some of the most common ways we hold ourselves back. And again, I see this time and time again. I work with my coaching clients and this is what I see. So the first one is fear of failure. Okay. So failing. That's such a big mindset that clients have, is if they do XYZ, they will fail. Okay. And this is when people avoid risk or stay within their comfort zone because, again, they feel like, okay, this is comforting to me. I know what's going to happen in this situation. If I don't apply to jobs, then I won't get rejected, right? You're in your comfort zone. But if you don't apply to jobs, you also won't get a new, better job or a higher salary, right? So it's like, okay, yes. What does that look like? And again, this fear of failure is such a weird word because I talk about this a lot with my clients and I don't really believe in failure. I just can't think of a situation that would be considered a failure. I look at situations that don't work out in our favor and I wouldn't even say in our favor, situations that don't work out as we expected them to, because it's always an expectation, as a learning opportunity. What can we learn from this situation? How can we grow from this situation? Why did I need this situation to happen in order for me to get to where I am now or to eventually get to where I want to be? Okay. Another way we hold ourselves back is perfectionism. Another word I no longer believe in. And I was a perfectionist. I am a people pleaser, recovering perfectionist, okay? But perfectionism is made up. Perfectionism is arbitrary. Perfectionism has a different definition depending on who you ask. And again, this is where it comes down to, what are the expectations? What expectations are we putting on ourselves, right? Waiting for things to be just right or having the perfect quote unquote circumstance before taking an action, right? Or wanting to do it. I see it with my clients, right? They're doing their work or they're applying to jobs or sending emails and they want to have the perfect job they applied to or the perfect email. And I'm like, okay, if you keep waiting for the perfect thing, you're never going to apply and you will never get a new job, right? Same thing. When I was starting my business and I was doing videos on TikTok, like my videos on TikTok at the beginning, well, let's just say they weren't my best work. But if I waited to be perfect, I would have actually never gotten to where I am today because I needed to post those videos that weren't as great and get feedback so that I knew how to make changes. Another way we hold ourselves back is by having imposter syndrome. So again, this is when we believe that we're not qualified or capable enough to do a job. And obviously, like I work with a lot of career coaching clients, as I always mention, I'm like a broken record and they're trying to find jobs, right? And we want to be realistic about their skills and what jobs they can go for, right? But that doesn't mean that within their job search strategy, within those jobs they're looking at, that they're going to be 100% qualified for each one. If you're 100% qualified for the jobs you're looking at, you are overqualified. You will be bored in your role in 3 to 6 months. That's not what we want to see, right? So having that mindset of like, okay, can I do the majority of these things? Yes, then I'm qualified, right? Like having that in mind. I had imposter syndrome so bad when I started my coaching practice. I was like, no one's going to want to work with me, no one's going to want to pay me, etc. And I had to get out of my own way because I was the only thing holding myself back from actually getting those clients. And yeah, I'm not the coach for everybody, obviously, but I am the coach for someone, for certain people, and those are the people that I want to work with. Another way we hold ourselves back is overthinking and indecision. I think a lot of times it comes from this perfectionism mindset about wanting everything to be perfect before we make a decision or before we take a step. But overthinking and indecision actually causes us to be stuck in analysis paralysis, whereby we're stuck in the phase of thinking versus doing. And while it's great to think, while it's great to analyze the data, we shouldn't be making rash decisions, especially when it's big decisions. But there comes a point where you thinking on something more isn't actually going to help you and isn't going to move the needle. And because of that, you are going to hold yourself back from actually doing something, taking a step, taking an action that's going to lead you to where you want to be. Okay. So it's really important that there needs to be a cutoff time for overthinking. And at some point, we just need to make a decision, like just do the thing. Okay. Another way we hold ourselves back, which I did kind of mention already, is people pleasing. So really trying to prioritize other people's approval versus our own personal growth, okay? And at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone who doesn't like what you're doing. There's always going to be someone who has a problem with what you're doing. There's always going to be someone who has an issue with you and, what you're posting, the way you're job searching, the jobs you're applying to, the salary you want, the way you raise your kids. Like there's literally always going to be someone who doesn't agree with you, no matter what you do in life. Literally, no matter what you do, you can never make every single person happy. It is actually impossible. So instead of focusing on trying to make everyone happy, which we just established is not possible, focus on your own personal growth. Is this something that'll make you happy? Is this something that'll bring you joy? Then do it. Right? If it's something that's going to work for you, then do it. Okay. And then the last thing, really common way that we hold ourselves back, is scarcity mindset. So I talk about this a lot. I talked about this a lot in last week's episode as well, but thinking success is limited and not meant for you. So scarcity mindset is feeling like, oh, there's not enough money to go around, or, there's so many people applying to jobs, right? What I'm seeing commonly right now is obviously there's a lot of layoffs going on, specifically in government positions. And a lot of my clients who aren't in government, by the way, or aren't looking for jobs in government, they're saying like, oh my God, there's so many layoffs. Like, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to be laid off. And I'm like, okay, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is there's always going to be a new job. Or what about the industry you're in? Is there a lot of layoffs in the industry that you are currently in? What's the current unemployment rate? Like, let's look at the data, right? Let's look at the data. Same with money. Like, oh, there's not enough money to go around. If I see someone who has more money than me, my thought is, amazing. If they have that much money, then I can also have that much money. Like there's always more and more and more and more of everything, of happiness, of abundance, of money, of jobs. There's always enough. And that's what we call an abundance mindset. So we want to move from that scarcity mindset into that abundance mindset. So these were kind of the most common ways that we hold ourselves back, but I also want to give you some tips and tricks on mindset shifts to actually get out of this. So the first thing is reframing failure as a learning. So again, I mentioned this, but like every step or every mistake, I don't love the word failure at all, because I think that everything that happens is a chance for us to learn from, get closer to mastery, become a better person, whatever it is. I think that life gives us an opportunity to do that. Another shift is embracing imperfect action. So be done being better than perfect, removing perfect from your vocabulary altogether, not even thinking of what perfect looks like, and maybe just setting an expectation for yourself of like, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, how can I get that done, and then take those steps. Another thing you can do is really challenge your inner critic. So again, we are often our own worst critic, right? So challenge it. If you're having a negative thought, right? If you're having self-doubt, if you're having negative self-talk, replace that. Say to yourself like, is this self-talk that I'm having right now, is this valid? Is this real? Can I reframe this? Can I language shift and say something else? So replacing self-doubt with self-compassion, right? Let's say, you feel like you can't do something. Instead of saying, oh, I can't do this, you can say to yourself, okay, I may not have all the tools right now to be able to complete this, but I know that I'm smart, I know I'm capable, and I'm going to do some research and I'm going to figure it out. Do we see how we're being realistic, but we're still giving ourselves that self-compassion? Another mindset shift, and this is something you can practice, is making decisions faster. I actually just did a LinkedIn post on this a couple weeks ago about how to make decisions. And again, this is more like smaller decisions. We're not talking about like big decisions like buying a house or, things like that. But we're talking about smaller everyday decisions, like making them faster. Trust yourself. And in my LinkedIn post, I talked about sort of how you can know by listening to your gut, whether it's a hell yes, a hell no, or if it's something that's like, okay, it's not a no, but it's not something I need to deal with right now, so I'll, tuck it in for later. Having that sort of trick to use can be really helpful, but really just getting to a point where you're trusting yourself. And you're adjusting as needed, okay? Just because you make a decision now, it doesn't mean that that's the decision you have to have for the rest of your life, right? You can make changes as you go, but the faster you make decisions, the faster you keep going, the better it's going to be, the easier you're going to be able to learn and pivot. Another thing you can do that's a good mindset shift is set boundaries and prioritize yourself. So this goes back to sort of that people pleasing of not needing external validation. So really set boundaries with people. You don't need to listen to everyone's advice about your career, your relationship, or whatever it is. Prioritize what you want. Prioritize your own self, okay? That's what's going to be really, really important. And then the last thing, which we talked about in terms of scarcity mindset, with the opposite of that would be adopting and shifting to an abundance mindset. Again, shifting to that mindset of there's enough success for everyone, there's enough money for me, there's enough jobs for me, there's enough happiness for me, like there's enough to go around for everyone. It is not a limited resource or a limited commodity, because it isn't, right? Like if you are a billionaire tomorrow and everyone becomes a billionaire, you're not taking away money from other people. We're just adding more, right? And that's what we need to look at in terms of an abundance mindset. So I have a journal prompt for you that you can definitely do a couple of questions. I would definitely write these down. So I'm going to go through, there are 4 questions that you can sort of use as a journal prompt to kind of get yourself into more of a positive mindset and to kind of get out of your own way, basically. So the first question is, where am I holding myself back? Where am I holding myself back? The second question is, can I take one small step this week towards my goal? This can be anything. One small step. What is one small step I can take towards my goal this week? Okay. The third question is, what is the worst that can happen if I go for my goals? So we're thinking like, what's the worst case scenario if I go for my goals? And then the last question is, what's the best case scenario if I go for my goals? What's the best thing that could happen from this situation? Okay. Do this journal prompt freehand. Maybe do a meditation before, something to kind of get you in the calm, juju energy. Okay. And then write these out and really see where those aspects are that you need support on, that you need to get out of your own way. Because at the end of the day, if you aren't your biggest cheerleader and supporter, then who is going to be, right? We have to be our own supporter, our own cheerleader. We need to be that person for ourselves so that everything can fall into place. Alrighty. I hope you liked this episode. As always, please leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed this. I really appreciate that if you do. Sending you all so much positive energy for the next week, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.